want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Week number 456. The
456.
456, the 456th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the astonishing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. We've done this, we've said this before. Not the 456 part.
The in the flesh part.
In the flesh part.
That's funny.
The date today is the 3rd of February. We're starting a week ago today, which was on the 27th of January, with news that came out then. And if you want to find the articles that we're talking about, they're at the. You can go down on the screen. I don't know which way. Maybe it's that way. You go down on the screen, and you will be able to find one or the other or both of a file, which is the file that Tom and I used to develop this, or a link to the source of that file.
There's a link to every source.
Yeah.
And sometimes those links are very worth following.
You can read the articles.
There's some good stuff in some of those articles.
There's good stuff.
There's some of them long enough that we could devote the whole show to just one of them. So
yep.
This is the reason we do it that way.
Yep. Okay, should we just go?
Might as well start. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see what
I'm going to put up a picture.
People want to look.
So you
see
can,
what
you
I
can
look
put
like.
that picture up if you feel like it.
Put me
There's
up there.
Tom.
Hi there, folks.
Hi, folks. Hi, Tom.
And what am I putting up here now?
The picture.
Aha.
That picture. That's right.
That one.
That one. This is the interior of a Tesla, and I'm not sure which model it is. This article.
Well, it's interesting because that little gimcrack on the flat dashboard is appearing on more and more new cars these days.
Oh yeah.
They're all putting screens up there. It seems to me they'd be a distraction.
No, I had the last car I had. I got new in 2000. It was a 2001 Prius. It was the first year model of Prius that appeared in the United States, and it had a much smaller screen than that.
Did it?
But it had a screen on the dashboard,
huh?
and you could look at your mileage information and an estimation of how far you could go on the amount of gas that we're using and how fast it was being used. And
well, the new ones all have that, or at least most of them do.
They have a huge amount of information I didn't have. If I had been willing to put several $1,000s into this, I could have got GPS, which means that I could have had a road atlas right there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't willing to spend that kind of money. Okay, this is from the BBC. What do you have for a title for the article?
I guess I got to scroll here and find out what the title is. Tesla expects 50% growth despite supply chain woes.
Yeah, and this I think is very, very important. And by
from
the way,
BBC, by the way,
Tesla is not the only car company that is in this boat. BYD is too. They're expecting expansion even though there are supply chain woes.
BYD, never heard of them.
Never heard of them.
There's about a couple dozen Chinese manufacturers, car manufacturers and all that. Never heard of them.
Yeah. You know, many years ago, before you or I were born, I would guess, I don't know when it was, there was a company that came along in the UK called MG.
Yeah, Morris Garage.
Morris Garage, and that was started in a garage. And that's the way the Chinese start these companies. They just start them in a garage.
Okay.
They have a company that builds bodies, and off they go. Okay, Tesla sales.
One of the things is that Chinese themselves are an enormous market.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And
So
they're an
it'll be a
enormous
long
market.
time before they can build enough cars to export them.
That's right. And the communist Chinese are the most capitalist people in the world.
I've heard that before. Strange, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Tesla sales will grow by more than 50% in 2022 compared to last year's numbers, despite supply chain problems. Chief Executive Elon Musk has said the electric car manufacturer, boy, I'm stumbling today, reported a record $5.5 billion profit. Last year, sales at the firm rocketed 71% to $53.8 billion in 2021 as it delivered over 936,000 vehicles.
It's almost a million.
Almost a million. And GM, Ford, the legacy car makers all over the world that are dependent on cars that are fueled by gasoline or diesel oil have seen tumbling sales.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Musk said that 2021 was a, quote, breakthrough year for Tesla.
Yeah.
And for electric vehicles in general. Which is true.
I think it is. Yep.
They're going to take over. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Tesla's supply chain was the main limiting factor to growth.
Yeah.
Okay. Despite this, they managed to grow by nearly 90%. This is likely to continue through 2022. And this is what's happening. Car makers around the world are grappling with a shortage of microchips.
And knowing how Elon Musk operates, if he can't get the microchips that he needs,
He'll make them.
He'll make them. Yeah. Should we go on?
Looking ahead, Musk says he expects fully self-driving cars will become the most important source of profitability for Tesla. And that's coming. There's no way of stopping that. That's coming.
It is.
Self-driving cars. People won't have their own cars anymore.
Well, that's one of the projections.
You'll pick up the phone and say, I want a car, and 5 minutes later it's in front of your house.
5 minutes. I'll bet it would be more like half a minute.
Okay.
Okay, our next item is from Newswise.
What's coming up here? We got.
And it has
we got an interesting piece of food here.
Yeah, an interesting piece of food.
Let's see if I can pull that up. I can.
There's one or two things in there that I don't recognize.
Well, I see the shrimps. I recognize them, and I see the cockle shells. Well, they're not cockle shells.
Mussels.
Yeah, they're mussels.
And there's a tentacle of an octopus in there.
Yeah, there is.
In the lower right-hand corner, there's something that I don't understand what that is.
I don't know what it is either.
Anyway, it looks
worth eating though.
Yeah, it sure does. Okay, this is, as I said, from Newswise, and we have a title for this, and I'll bet you know what that title is, don't you, Tom?
Is your seafood climate friendly? Scientists outline the benefits of marine aquaculture.
Writing in Bioscience, which is the name of a journal, Alice Jones of the University of Adelaide and an international team of scientists from the university and Nature Conservancy discussed the potential marine aquaculture to feed a growing human population sustainably.
Well, marine aquaculture is also called mariculture. Mm-hmm. And basically they stake out a piece of ocean, isolated from the rest of the ocean by nets, and grow fish in there.
Yeah,
or whatever else they fish.
Want. Yeah, or whatever else they want. They'll do things like dangle ropes from buoys, and the very small juvenile clams and oysters and things like that will mostly mussels will attach themselves to that. And then to harvest, all they got to do is pull a rope
up. Sounds simple. Well, mariculture constitutes 52% of the aquatic animal products people consume, i.e. fish.
Yes. Well,
seafood.
There may be no fish in that picture at all. I don't know if there's fish in that or not.
I'll try to pull it up again.
I mean, I can't see anything.
Find a piece of fish.
I don't see anything that I would say that is fish. There's a lot of shrimp.
Yeah,
and
right
stuff.
Smack dab in the middle is a hunk of fish.
Is that a hunk of fish?
I think so.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. Okay.
Well, mariculture constitutes 52% of the aquatic animal products people consume. Didn't I say that?
Yes, you did.
Well, mariculture does not require substantial land use change, such as the raising of rainforests
I
to
have
make room for
accidentally
cattle.
gone to the next picture.
Opportunities to improve the carbon profile abound by co-farming finfish with bivalves and or seaweed.
Yeah, absolutely. You can put them together.
They got a lot of potential ahead of them.
Yeah, they do indeed.
Such measures would result in greater absorption of excess nutrients, reducing eutrophication and the degradation of habitats that already store carbon.
I think Americans would probably go for this instead of one thing that the UN suggested, which is that we all start eating crickets.
They say they're good.
They say they're delicious.
I'd have a hard time putting one in my mouth, but they say they're good.
Clean. I would have a slightly hard time putting the first one into my mouth. I have no doubt. I remember when I was 10 years old, I was in a fancy restaurant. My parents did their annual thing, and I ordered lobster, Maine lobster. And this thing came, and I really looked forward to lobster because I loved lobster. It wasn't until later that I discovered that the thing that I really loved was butter. But anyway, I looked at this thing and I thought, that looks like a gigantic cockroach with claws. I lost my appetite for about 4 seconds. Okay, on to our next thing. This is from Clean Technica.
Got a picture here.
Clean Technica. We have a picture of lightning ahead.
Certainly, that's what it looks like.
It sure does.
Climate change. How much will it cost? McKinsey has the answer.
McKinsey is one of the world's largest consulting firms, identifying risks and advising clients on how to deal with them. It has issued a report that attempts to put real numbers on the true cost of climate change. There is good news in the report, but to realize it, we have to act.
Well, how much money will it take to address climate change?
A lot.
McKinsey says it's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot less than it would cost if we don't do it.
Yes.
The numbers are staggering, but they're paltry in comparison to the costs that absolutely will happen, and this is underlined, if the world continues to drift along in, quote, business as usual mode much longer.
Yeah.
And the article gives 5 characteristics that define a net zero transition. And if you want to know what they are, you got to look it up.
Well, this is a complicated article. It's not easy to understand. If you read it, I would suggest that you really be prepared to pay close attention to what is said.
But the report sets forth, and this is from the report, in clear, unambiguous terms what will be required to address the fallout as the world continues to get hotter. The main point is, the longer we wait to get started, the more this is going to cost.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that.
And the other thing that we should mention is the benefits of doing it include basically, what was it, 15 million jobs, cleaner environment, cleaner air, cheaper health care. You know, you just go down this cheaper energy and just go down.
It kind of escalates, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
We got another picture coming up here, and this is an interesting picture.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at this thing, and what I am seeing is a railroad locomotive. A steam locomotive.
It sure looks like it, doesn't it? I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
With cormorants sitting on
Yeah,
highway
there's
signs.
cormorants sitting on little poles there.
This is from CNN.
Federal judge cites climate crisis in decision to cancel oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
This is significant.
It is. A federal judge invalidated a massive oil and gas lease sale for 80 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico after a coalition of environmental groups sued the Biden administration to stop it. The ruling cancels 1.7 million acres of oil and gas leases from that sale.
Well, the administration tried in its first days in office to put a stop to all new oil and gas drilling.
Yeah.
They didn't quite make that, but this is what they got. The U.S. District Judge said the lease sale was invalid because it did not fully take into account the climate impacts of the leases.
Yeah.
Okay, the ruling vacated the leases and noted that although the Biden administration already auctioned off the waters, none of the sales were effective yet. Okay.
Right.
So the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management doesn't need to undo leases. It just must not execute them.
Yes.
Just kind of a backdoor way of doing it.
Yeah, well, that's what happens in courtrooms sometimes. Okay, we must move on, and we've got an item here.
Let's see if I can't move.
From CNN, and a picture of
nice
the Great
picture.
Barrier Reef at a point where it's in good condition. And you have a title for the article, I'm sure.
I'm sure I do. Well, that is the Great Barrier Reef, which is a huge structure.
Yeah.
Off the coast of Australia.
Yeah.
Well, and naturally, because it's off the coast of Australia, it starts out with the word Australia. Australia pledges U.S. $700 million to protect the Great Barrier Reef amid climate change threat.
Yeah. With a February 1st deadline to give UNESCO a report on the state of conservation of the Great Barrier Reef, Australia's government pledged 1 billion Australian dollars, which is 700 million American dollars, to protect it. The Australian Climate Council called the pledge, quote, a Band-Aid on a broken leg, end quote.
That's an interesting metaphor, isn't it?
It is.
Well, there's a couple of good short videos in here you might want to look up.
Yeah.
One of them is a 1-minute video about Australia's Great Barrier Reef creates new life in a magical spawning event.
Yeah.
That's a 1-minute video, and it's worth looking at.
Yeah, it is.
The second 2-minute video is also interesting. It's strange, but once in a lifetime, a strange, rare blanket octopus is spotted in Australia. And it's weird. It doesn't look like an octopus at all, but it is.
Looks like a blanket.
Huh?
It looks like a blanket.
Looks like a
Blanket.
a blanket. Yeah, I guess it does. Funny.
That's why it's called a blanket octopus.
Well, the Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest coral reef. It covers nearly 133,000 square miles. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It is home to more than 1,500 types of fish, 400 kinds of corals, and dozens of other species.
Yeah.
The effects of the climate crisis, coupled with a series of natural disasters, have had a devastating impact on the reef. We've talked about that on the show.
Many times.
The reef recently avoided being placed on the UN Cultural Agency's danger list. I think it belongs there.
Yeah.
The funding will support new climate adaptation technology, investment in water quality programs, and will protect key species in a biodiverse reef.
Right. Okay.
We've got another
Our next
very
item is
interesting
from
picture
CNN.
here, in case anybody's never seen one of these things.
I had not thought that maybe somebody had never seen one, but it is.
Well,
actually.
yeah, there's electric stoves, you know.
Yeah, it's possible.
And now, what's the new kind of stove we saw last week? They're very expensive ones. Thermal induction stoves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, gas stoves are a threat to health and have a larger climate impact than previously known. I don't know that that's actually true. I think it was probably known, but it wasn't widely dispersed.
It wasn't widely talked about.
Yeah.
The gas emitted from household stoves and ovens is not only dangerous to public health, but also has much more significant impacts on the climate crisis than previously thought. Research by scientists at Stanford University shows.
Well, they say this about that in the article. Emissions from gas stoves in U.S. homes have the same climate warming impact as that of 500,000 gasoline-powered cars.
That's a lot.
So they're significant.
Yeah.
Fracked gas is harming our health and warming the planet. And methane, a main component, is a potent planet warmer.
Yeah, and it leaks. Okay, we're up to Saturday, January 29th, and we have a picture here of a gathering storm. This is the storm.
This is happening as we speak.
Well, this is a different storm. This is a previous storm.
This is the previous storm.
That's right. Now we've got a different storm coming, and who knows what. I read at NOAA, the NOAA weather website, that we could expect up to an inch of ice. An inch of ice.
An inch of ice. I don't like it when that happens.
No, it's not good. It will tear trees apart pretty powerfully.
So that's the gathering storm at about a week ago, huh?
Yeah. This is from CNN.
Dangerous, heavy snow and winds approaching hurricane intensity could knock out power, flood coastal areas as a weekend nor'easter revs up. Now, they were talking about last weekend.
Last weekend, that's right. A weekend nor'easter that's forming off the coast of the Carolinas Friday night will likely quickly strengthen as it is making its way up the East Coast overnight into Saturday. And of course, this storm is the one that dumped a couple of feet of snow on Boston.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a couple of inches here.
Well, there's another storm coming. It's right here, right
yeah,
here now.
It's supposed to
starting. Hit. Just looking at the maps, it's hard to tell. It might hit Brattleboro, it might not. We're right on the cusp.
Yeah, and it is raining, but it's also well above 40 right now.
So according to this last weekend storm, the rain changed to snow in Brattleboro about 3 a.m. So it was raining when you went to bed, and there was snow on the ground in the morning.
Yes, yeah, but it was warm enough that it kept falling off the roofs. I could hear it falling.
Well, we lost a lot of snow overnight, just last night.
Yeah.
Because I looked out the window this morning.
Yes.
And there was 4 inches of snow on the tree, you know, and now there's
Nothing.
2 inches of snow.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Well, we got a picture of something that looks very, very familiar, doesn't it? How do I get this one up there?
This particular article comes from Clean Technica. There you go.
There we go.
It's hard to see what, you know, Tom is looking at a thing. This is a single display that has, what, 7, 8, 9, 10,
a whole bunch of screens on it.
11 screens on it. He's got to figure out where a mouse cursor is in the middle of all that.
And on top of everything else,
it can go to a different display. So it could be nowhere on there. It's not easy. That's, you know, what Tom's job is.
Well, what
That's
does this thing say? In case you don't recognize it, that is a picture of a school bus.
Oh, no. Is it?
And it's an ideal opportunity for electrification because there's plenty of room for battery, you know, and during the day you can charge it because the kids are all in class.
Yep.
So, New York City's first electric school buses are diesel to electric repowers, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica. New York City is committed to having only electric school buses by 2035. The first of them are hitting the streets now. In a pioneering move, instead of buying buses, Logan Bus Company is having 5 older diesel-powered buses converted to electric.
So that's a pilot program.
That's a pilot program. They'll see how it works.
I think they're going to do it because it just makes sense.
Absolutely. We'll see more about school buses later on.
Well, converting a diesel bus involves removing the internal combustion engine, and replacing them with an electric drivetrain, motor, and batteries.
Do they take the muffler off?
He's referring to a picture where it was supposedly a picture of an electric bus and had a muffler on it. A typical repower. This is expensive. Cost about $150,000.
Compare that to the cost of the electric bus, new.
Well, yeah, right.
And it turns out that it's pretty cheap.
Well, New York City has committed to going all electric with its school buses by 2035. And as I already said, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It just does make sense.
It does.
And we got another picture here of a very interesting looking little car.
I'm
not sure if that's a car or a motorcycle with a cover.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
It's a two-seater.
It's a two-seater with room for a big dog behind the people. And it is an Aptera, which has 3 wheels, which means in Vermont, it is illegally a motorcycle, except you can drive it with a regular driver's license. You don't need a special motorcycle's license. And the reason is because it's 3 wheels and it has a cab that's fully enclosed, so that the passengers are fully enclosed.
That's the fine point, isn't it?
It is, but it makes a huge difference in the price of this thing because it doesn't have to meet the safety standards of ordinary cars.
Basically, it's a motorcycle.
It's a motorcycle, yeah.
Well, the article is entitled 6 Solutions to Battery Mineral Challenges.
Yeah. This is from Clean Technica. A flood of recent articles, whether spontaneous or coordinated, it sounds like a conspiracy theory here, seeks to discredit renewable energy, EVs and other elements of the energy transition to save the climate. One claim is that it's immensely destructive, if not impossible, to find enough minerals to make all the batteries.
Well, this was written by Amory Lovins.
Yes.
And he's an activist. He writes some good stuff.
And he's a very smart man.
Yes, I agree with you there. Well, this particular article cites 6 solutions, and if you want to know what they are, you got to look up the article.
Yeah, but one of the things that he does cite is that we have new battery technologies that are being developed right now.
Oh yeah, and I've said on a show when I studied electrical engineering, we spent 47 minutes studying batteries.
This particular car, by the way, the Aptera,
I'll push it back on.
If you get that in its most expensive form, which is about $47,000, and they haven't started delivering them yet, but they apparently will this year. At $47,000, the top of the car is completely covered with solar cells. So it gains range.
Self-charging car.
In Vermont, it would gain about 25 miles a day.
Okay.
And at the highest level, it has about 1,000 miles of range. So
that's significant.
It is. I guess it is. You could drive to Florida from Brattleboro on one charge. And with that combination, if you charge that car and you drive it the way most people drive their vehicles, you might be gaining. You might never charge your car again.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll
figure out some way you can sell the surplus electricity.
That'll happen in time. That'll happen.
Well, there's a conclusion from this article, and it's an easy one. We have many ways to save battery materials of concern.
Yes, we do.
So let's move on to Sunday.
Here's Sunday, Mount Kilimanjaro with just a tiny bit of snow on the top. That mountain should be about a third covered with snow. That's the way that it looked in the 1950s.
Well, Kilimanjaro is a dormant volcano in Tanzania.
Yeah.
And it's the highest mountain in Africa. It's nearly 20,000 feet.
Oh, is it? I didn't know it was that tall.
19,000 some, yeah.
Wow. Well, learn something new every day. This is from 24/7 Wall Street.
Natural landmarks already damaged or destroyed by climate change.
Most people who never travel to exotic places will nonetheless recognize images of Mount Kilimanjaro with its legendary snows. There was a book called The Snows of Kilimanjaro, wasn't there? Or a movie?
You're ringing a bell. I'm not sure what it is, but yes, you're ringing a bell.
It's from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Or the Great Barrier Reef with its rich marine life. But these and many other iconic natural wonders are losing their struggle with climate change.
Well, 30% of the natural World Heritage Sites are threatened by climate change. Okay, they may be completely lost to future generations. If you go to the article and you click on it, you'll see natural landmarks that are already damaged or destroyed by climate change. Invasive species, human activity, and traditional weather patterns all take their toll. And there's a link here for the 20 countries responsible for nearly all global emissions, which certainly includes us.
Yeah, it includes us right at the top of the list, along with a couple of other countries.
Well, let's move along here. We'll take a look at this little guy. There we go.
I don't think I would fit into that car.
Well, that's a lot bigger than you think it is. Those wheels are full-size car wheels, for example.
Okay.
So this is a big thing. This is about the size of a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the driver sits in that little compartment up front.
I don't think I'd fit into that. That's And I don't think I'd be able to get into it, even if I could fit in it. Okay.
That's a solar racer.
This is from Clean Technica.
The Northern Territory EV transition.
Australia's Northern Territory has been associated with the biennial World Solar Car Challenge.
That's a race.
That's a race. A recent survey showed that 78% of the Territorians,
that's what they call them.
That's what they call them, would consider purchasing an EV if they were on parity price with petroleum, gasoline, or diesel cars. The government of the territory is working to make that happen.
Price parity is expected by 2025.
I got news for you. It's probably already here.
It probably is in some form. Well, solar cars are lightweight EVs powered solely by solar power. Well, this is not what you use going to work every day.
No, it's not.
They do not access the grid during this particular race, this challenge at all.
Yeah.
So they got to be self-contained.
Yep.
And in this particular case, that thing is all solar panels.
It's all solar panels. Okay. Should we go on?
Yeah, we got an interesting picture.
I really like
here.
this picture. You know, this is an astronaut.
That's Thomas Pesquet, or Pesquet. He's French, so I guess it's Pesquet.
I would guess. And it might not be Thomas. It might be Tomas or
You're
Toma.
right. Well, they spell it with an H.
Well, I was just saying that
Thomas, in Spanish it's Tomas.
Yeah, the S at the end might not be pronounced. I don't speak any French. This is something that I regret a little bit, but nevertheless.
Well, what an astronaut, and it's the astronaut we're looking at. And let me put him up here because
Oh, he's up.
He's up there. He's up there. He is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's right there.
He's right there.
He's looking at us.
He's up in a space.
What an astronaut could see from space that changed him for good.
European Space Agency said the effects of climate change on Earth were increasingly visible from space and showed a marked difference for this astronaut since his last visit to space station in 2016. He could see retreating glaciers, pollution, and extreme weather events. So he could actually see the change that took place.
That's exactly what this article's about. He saw the changes. It's
less than 5 years.
Oh my God,
Yeah. This is kind of scary. Although
he states that if we can make a space station fly, then we can save the planet.
You know what? I don't think that's logical.
Why isn't it?
Maybe we could make a space station fly, and that doesn't mean that we can save the planet.
Oh, I don't take it that way. He starts that sentence off with if.
Yeah. Well,
but I agree with you. He's up there and he's looking down at this Earth and he's looking at stuff he's familiar with.
Yeah.
And he's seeing the changes.
Yeah.
He says, I'm not happy.
No, he's not happy. Okay, we're up to Monday, January 31st.
All day.
All day. We have a picture here
the
of
picture came
a
up
Japanese
ahead of me.
red pine.
Interesting tree, isn't it?
I change the pictures from one slide to the next. And Tom determines whether the slide or one or the other of us or both of us or whatever is going to be there. So sometimes the things change and he's a little surprised. Anyway.
Well, that is a Japanese red pine.
We hope.
I'll pull it back up. Take a quick look. It doesn't look red to me. But
no, it doesn't look red to me
interesting
either.
looking
and it's
tree.
not the tree that's in the article. It just happens to be Japanese. This is
nuclear disaster in Japan did something strange to trees.
This is from a publication called Futurism. Trees outside Fukushima Daiichi are definitely acting weird, according to a study published recently in the journal Plants. Conifers in the area near the nuclear plant are showing unusual growth patterns with the degree of irregularity in proportion to the distance from the plant. So they seem to be pretty certain that these irregular growth patterns are happening because of radiological pollution.
That's the gist of the article, yes. That's it. 10 years have passed since Fukushima, and the large-scale effects are still visible.
Yeah.
Okay, we're sitting here fat and happy in Vermont thinking about Fukushima. That was a pretty big disaster.
It was a pretty big disaster. And if they had built a seawall for that plant that was based on
reality,
it wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
But they would have had to have a seawall that would be 25 meters tall instead of 5.7.
There's some important news on Fukushima.
Yeah.
Scientists have found radioactive snakes near the Fukushima meltdown site.
Don't take an apple from one of them.
Radioactive snakes. Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk? Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got a Tokamak that we want to look at.
Now, the question that I've got about the Tokamak is, would you want one of these things in your backyard?
Well, I certainly don't want one in my living room. Well, a tokamak is a reactor.
Yes, it is.
So there's usually not a guy sitting in it. It's
not when it's running, no.
Not when it's running.
But it's a different kind of reactor. It's a fusion reactor.
Fusion, yeah.
Which means that it doesn't really use a lot of radioactive heavy metals like uranium.
It uses mostly heavy water.
Well, it uses about 50% heavy water and about 50% tritium dioxide.
Which comes from the moon.
No, you have to make it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which means you need to have a nuclear reactor of the type that we had at Vermont Yankee in order to keep one of these things running. But they've been trying to get these things going. Well, why don't you read the title? This is from Energy
okay,
Monitor.
It's a question for you. Can nuclear fusion power the race to net zero?
The IPCC's landmark report in 2018 concluded that the world needs to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 to have a good chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Estimates for when fusion might come into use range from 2030 to 2050 and beyond. It's not quick enough.
It's an interesting article, but it's very technical.
Yeah.
In fusion, small, light atoms are merged into bigger, heavier ones, as occurs in the plasma core of the sun.
Yep.
Okay, nuclear fusion has long been considered the energy of the future.
Well, by
an
some
infinite
people.
source of power that does not produce CO2.
Sorry, not infinite. Go ahead.
However, after decades of research, it is yet to deliver on its potential.
Basically, we've spent billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we've come to the point that we've got a reactor.
We're getting to the point where we're getting to the point.
Yeah, we're at a point where we've got a reactor that'll run for 15 minutes and power a light bulb. And this is not... The problem that I see with this can be seen in very easy numbers. In 1950, they said it would be 30 years.
Yes.
Today they say it'll be 10 years. So
well, the old joke is that nuclear fusion is 30 years away and always will be.
I don't know that that's true, but so they get a reactor that will actually function. They've got to get a reactor that's going to be able to supply realistic amounts of energy competitively with solar and wind and batteries, and I just don't believe it'll ever happen.
Well, a long, long time ago, I lived in Princeton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And one of my neighbors worked in Princeton in a place working on fusion.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to him and saying, what they really need is a massive move toward this, like we did for the atomic bomb. What do they call that?
Manhattan Project?
Well, it was the Manhattan Project, but they mobilized the country toward moving
yeah.
it. And I said, we got to do the same thing for nuclear fusion.
And what did he say?
He says, it isn't going to work. He says, this thing takes time. You got to do steps, and one step has to be done before the next step can even be begun.
And when he said it isn't going to work,
you can't speed it up.
He didn't mean that fusion power would never happen.
No,
he meant that dumping a whole lot of money into it
wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm glad you cleared that up.
Yeah.
Well, this month, China's experimental Tokamak reactor, which we just looked at, it eclipsed previous records by sustaining a high plasma temperature for 1,056 seconds. Wow. It reached two milestones, though. A 1 million ampere current. Now, that's a lot. That'll blow a few fuses in your house.
It'll not just in your house.
It'll blow a few fuses
in your house, it's going to blow every fuse on the block.
Not a state.
Yeah, okay.
1,000-second duration, 100 million degree temperature, which is 5 times hotter than the sun.
100 million degrees?
100 million, that's what it says.
That is just not imaginable. I cannot imagine something that hot. I mean,
it would liquefy everything anywhere near it.
Yeah, 100 million degrees is like, a fire might be 1,800 degrees. This is 100 million.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Now we got a picture here coming up of a car. Is that what that thing is?
That is a car.
Let's take a look at that picture there, because it's an interesting car.
It's a BYD car, and I see that the license plate on it has got Arabic numbers on it.
It does, yes. That's a BYD S7 And I'll read what it says. Tesla, #1 in world EV sales in 2021.
After a walk in the park in 2019 and 2020, Tesla had another comfortable year of its fourth consecutive bestseller title in 2021. However, with its market share eroding 12% in 2018, 17% in 2019, 16% in 2020, and 14% in 2021, a competitor might challenge Tesla in 2022, and that most likely would be BYD.
Well, there's lots of charts in this article. If you like charts, there's plenty for you.
Yeah.
BYD, Great Wall, Cherry. I never even heard of these companies.
Yeah.
Many are electric. Tesla crossed the 100,000 registrations per month average for a quarter for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
BYD ended not far from that average with 93,000 registrations in December.
Now,
so people are moving toward electric cars.
For people who don't know, BYD is a company that's a lot like Tesla. It makes cars, it makes batteries, big batteries, utility scale.
Build your dreams.
It means build your dreams. It's a Chinese company. It was started by a guy, which is basically the same kind of thing that happened with Tesla, which was started by Elon Musk. I've forgotten the name of the guy at BYD, but BYD does some things that Tesla doesn't do. Uh-huh. It builds mining equipment and forklifts and heavy trucks, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, diversified company.
It's a much more diversified company. It's not as big, I don't think, as Tesla, but it's a big, big company. And, you know, if somebody came up with a ship that was powered by BYD drive system, I wouldn't be
You
at
wouldn't
all
be surprised. No, I wouldn't either. Well, as I mentioned, there's lots of charts.
Yeah.
Including many strange brands that we never heard of.
Strange and wonderful.
But the article reviews these charts, so if you wanted to spend an afternoon doing arithmetic, here it is.
When I was a little kid, I would be attracted to that. I was, but
I was too.
I liked doing arithmetic when I was a little kid.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Tuesday, February 1.
Is that where we are?
That's where we are.
Okay, we have a picture of a wind farm.
There.
And we have an article from
what that is?
Renews. Yeah, it has wind turbines in the back there.
That?
Here, I thought that was a picture of wildflowers. But
it is, but there's wind turbines in there.
This is from Renews.
What, according to the article, is a wind farm?
Yeah.
A record 31.1 gigawatts of power purchasing agreements signed in 2021.
Yeah.
So they're making the energy, but they're having no trouble selling it.
Yeah. Corporations bought over 31 gigawatts of renewable electricity through power purchase agreements in 2021, Bloomberg NEF research shows. The figure set a new record, up nearly 24% from the previous year's 25.1. So it went from 25.1 to 31.1. Almost two-thirds, or 20.3 gigawatts of the power purchase agreements were in the Americas. So a lot of it was in the United States, but it was in Chile and Argentina and Brazil and Mexico and not so much
Almost
Mexico.
Two-thirds of the power purchasing agreements were struck in the Americas.
Yeah.
Okay. Of which 17 gigawatts, that's about two-thirds of two-thirds.
Yeah.
Were in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it's the large technology companies behind it. They're collectively signing over half of the deals.
Yes.
They know they're going to need energy. They want to reserve it basically now.
Yep. Okay, we have a picture of, what is it?
Well, there's a quick takeaway here.
Oh, go ahead.
Clean energy might be the silver bullet in a decarbonization of the private sector.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it would be.
Absolutely.
So let's move along here. We got another picture here.
Of a solar farm. I have no idea where that solar farm is.
Well, it's not in America, but
it's not
it
American.
Could be.
And what didn't come with the article. This is from Energy Monitor.
Well, that solar farm is in Germany.
Oh, okay.
I remember looking that up. Yep.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, the farmers are profiting from the solar power boom.
Some 75% of the UK's land is farmland. This typically flat.
Who would have thunk?
Oh, I would have guessed.
You've been there.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, they have an old civilization that has a lot of people living in cities. They need a lot of food to be grown. They've got a lot of farms, and they don't have a lot of waste land. And
I would imagine, yeah.
No, open land is also best suited to renewables. In 2019, around 40% of the farmers were already generating and profiting from low-carbon energy, said the UK's National Farmers Union. They produced about 10% of the UK's electricity. Well, think about that. The farms in the UK produce 10% of the country's electricity. Farms.
Farms are producing
10%. That's a lot.
I would say.
And that's almost all renewable energy. And they're not putting farmland out of use for agriculture by doing it either.
They don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to.
I mean, we've seen it here where they build the solar farm up high enough they can run a tractor.
Yeah, but you know, in the UK, I saw this myself with my own eyes. I lived in Devon, and in Devon they have hedgerows all over.
Yeah.
And you can have a hedgerow with no way in or out, except a stile.
A stile, yep. You got.
Now the stile is made out of stones that are in the hedgerow.
Okay.
And I went.
They did this 1,000 years ago.
More than that, and I was out there with a farmer, and there were sheep in there. And I said, how do the sheep get in and out? Because they're going to eat all the grass in there. He said, we carry them one by one.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Imagine carrying a sheep over a stile.
Which was just made of rough stone. I mean, these were not exactly, but that's what they did. Okay, think about that for a minute, and then think about the obstruction of the solar panel. No, I'm sorry. They're going to grow all sorts of stuff under that solar panel, including...
They can. I mean, you can't. Maybe you can't grow corn, but you can certainly grow...
No, I would not grow corn
potatoes,
under there, but
tomatoes,
to tell you the truth,
cabbages,
If
carrots.
I were a farmer, I don't think I'd grow corn anyway.
Uh-huh.
You look at a conventional cornfield...
Yeah.
Monocropped,
yep.
It's an environmental disaster.
It is.
It really is.
Absolutely.
The soil has been
They can do it
poisoned.
for about 3 years, and then they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and they've got to clean everything up. Okay, go on.
Growing crops is high risk and low reward.
Yeah.
Whereas solar is low risk and high reward.
Wow.
Farmers can lease an acre to renewables developers for more than $1,000 a year, a price that can make crops look ridiculous by comparison.
Yeah. Yes.
There is a solution.
What's that?
The form of an app called PPAYA, which analyzes prices on the wholesale market on behalf of independent producers. So you can do it with a laptop.
Yeah, they can figure it out. Okay.
Let's move along here. We got an interesting picture.
We have a picture.
And this is a composite picture, which I take.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that coal-burning plant is on the other side of the river.
I know it was on the other side of the river. I thought maybe...
That's the Empire State Building.
I know it is.
So that's the west side of the river.
I know.
And this coal-burning plant, well, this particular coal-burning plant is in South Carolina.
Okay, Tom, you know a lot more about this than I do.
But there is an old coal-burning plant on the right side of the river.
Yes, that's true.
Which they're taking apart. They're not operating it as a generating station anymore, but there's a lot of solar on it. We've talked about it.
Yeah,
on the
we
show.
have indeed. This article is from CNN.
EPA to bring back mercury pollution rules that were nixed under the Trump administration.
The EPA...
He wouldn't do a thing like that.
I hope they do. The EPA announced it intends to reaffirm its authority to regulate toxic mercury from power plant smokestacks, undoing a Trump rollback. The EPA proposes to bring back the 2012 mercury and air toxic standards rules implemented under President Obama.
The Trump administration reversed the rules, saying they were too burdensome to industry.
Yeah.
Duh. The rules require power plants to reduce pollutants, including mercury and acid gases, which the Biden administration officials say will improve public health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mercury is a neurotoxin, which we know.
Mercury is horrible.
with several health impacts, including its harmful effect on brain development in children.
I had a job when I was young in a chemical factory, and when the job was offered to me, I said, okay, I will take this job, but as I will not work with mercury.
Okay.
And they said, okay.
Well, mercury's
They
nasty
understood
stuff.
it. And mercury is nasty. It absolutely is nasty. There are a couple of other elements that are just nasty also. But, mercury is, and not that it doesn't have its uses, but you don't want it in Lake Champlain. And we've got it in Lake Champlain.
We've got it in Lake Champlain. Where does it come from?
It came from the smokestacks in the Midwest.
Oh, yes.
And there used to be a fishing industry in Lake Champlain. Not anymore. It disappeared over 100 years ago. But the reason was because of mercury. And if you go out on Lake Champlain and you go fishing and you catch the biggest trout that was ever caught in that lake, don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Okay. We are up to Wednesday, February 2nd.
And we
have a picture here of a battery.
It doesn't look like a battery to me.
It's not even very big. Look, it's right next to a set of stairs, and you can see the railing on.
You can see that gives you a sense of
yeah, this battery might be 6 or 7 feet tall. I don't think it's 7 feet. I think it's closer to 6. So this is from PV Magazine. What do you got, Tom?
Zinc bromide batteries to store solar power at Acciona's testing field in Spain.
Spanish renewable energy firm Acciona Energía will test the zinc bromide battery technology developed by Anglo-Australian manufacturer Galion at its PV testing plant in Navarra.
They're doing a lot of stuff in batteries that I never ever imagined.
Yeah.
When I was in college, like I say, we spent 47 minutes in 4 years
on
talking about batteries.
Yeah. The project is part of an innovation program started by Acciona Energy. So zinc bromide, I want to point out, zinc bromide battery doesn't have any lithium in it.
It's good for solar batteries.
Yeah.
Its electrolyte gel is a fire retardant.
Yeah.
Meaning that the batteries can't catch fire or explode. That's one of the things people are afraid of with these new batteries, lithium batteries.
Although lithium is a whole lot safer than gasoline.
Well, nobody's talking about that, but you're absolutely right. Gillion, or Gillion, I don't know how you pronounce it, has developed a battery technology. Gel ion.
I'll bet that's what it is.
I bet it is. Has developed a battery technology for the storage of energy based on non-fluid zinc bromide chemistry that can be manufactured in existing lead-acid battery factories. Now, I just can't conceive of a non-fluid battery.
Well, they're coming up with them.
I know they are. It's just beyond my experience. I mean,
but you can conceive of a non-fluid capacitor.
Yeah.
And you could, kind of alter a capacitor to be sort of a battery.
Capacitors and batteries, in a sense, are very closely related.
Yeah.
A capacitor can be considered a battery, really.
Yeah, it could be, although it discharges pretty fast.
It can discharge instantly, and a battery discharges
It can make
slowly.
quite a spark.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we get an interesting picture here of a lightning strike.
This is frightening. I want to point out to
frightening
people,
lightning.
If you look in the lower left corner of this, you can see a jagged line coming down. That is the Rio Grande River coming down on the border of Texas and Mexico, going into the Gulf.
Oh, is that what that is, huh?
Yeah. And then in the middle of the picture, right above that crazy blue thing, you can see a white line going up and down, and that is the west border of Louisiana.
Oh, it's Louisiana.
Yeah, you can see the border.
Oh, I can see Texas.
Texas, Louisiana. Yep. You can see the Mississippi River.
Yep.
Just to the right of that.
Yep.
And then if you can see that there's Mississippi, and on the right side of the screen, Alabama and...
That's a big lightning bolt.
It's almost 500 miles long.
That's big.
All right, what do you got for a title? This is from the BBC.
Well, you just said it already. Almost 500-mile-long lightning bolt crossed 3 U.S. states.
A lightning bolt almost 500 miles long that lit up the sky across 3 U.S. states has set a new world record for the longest flash, scientists have confirmed. The bolt was in 2020. It extended for a total of 477.2 miles and spread across Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas.
There's a short film there on this website.
Put the bolt back up so people can see it while we're talking.
Yeah, it is.
That's frightening. It really, just imagine if that hit your house.
You wouldn't have a house anymore. Well, there's an interesting film, very short. Lightning bolt sets new world record. It's 40 seconds.
Okay.
So you want to watch that. Lightning rarely extends over 10 miles and usually lasts under a second. The previous record was 440 miles, recorded in Brazil in 2018. So it says these are extremely large and long-duration lightning events were not isolated, but happened during active thunderstorms.
Right.
Anytime, this is an interesting thing, anytime there is thunder heard, it is time to reach a lightning-safe place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, huh?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Our last,
moving right along.
Our last item is here. These are cherry blossoms.
I'm going to leave that up for a second. It's cherry blossom time, isn't it?
Isn't that
very,
beautiful?
very
I love cherry trees. We have a little cherry tree at the house.
Do you?
Yeah, I planted it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, this is from CNN.
UK plants are flowering a whole month earlier than they used to.
Yeah, and that's not just a cherry tree flowering. That's all over the country. Climate change is making plants across the British Isles flower on average a month earlier than they used to, a new study shows. And that might set off a chain of events that could disrupt ecosystems and potentially cause entire species to collapse.
Well, it's cause for concern.
I guess.
If global temperatures continue to rise at their current rate, spring could eventually start in February on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Okay? This is expected to have detrimental consequences for wildlife, agriculture, and gardeners. And they explain what these detrimental are.
Right.
I don't think we got time to delve into
Probably
it. Probably
not. But, you know, the fact is that the UK was already a fairly warm place to begin with.
Warmer than here.
During the winter. During the summer, it was always cool. The house that I lived in Devon, the temperature inside that house never got above 65 degrees all summer.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, my father used to say, you hear songs about the rosy red cheeks of the little children. The reason why they're rosy red is because the children, when they're 2, 3, 4 years old, play in nurseries where the temperature is 45 degrees.
No kidding. Never heard that one.
Yeah. My parents would go to a party. They went to one party. My mother said there was a man there who was bragging about the fact that he had central heating. And he could keep his whole house at 57 degrees.
Wow.
And the people at the party wore their winter coats, big, heavy top coats, which, her description of them made them sound like they were half an inch thick felt.
They are.
And they stood in a semicircle around a fireplace, which had a fire in it. And that was the party. They didn't dance. I
remember visiting people in Ireland, and after dinner, everybody congregates around the fire.
Yeah.
They just go into another room, and that's where they hang out. The fire is right there. Yeah. Well, last March, Japan recorded its earliest cherry blossom bloom in 1,200 years.
Yes.
Something's happening, folks.
Yep.
Climate records show that the average first flowering had advanced an entire month and is strongly linked to global temperatures.
Yep. And if it gets much worse, the cherries will just not know what to do. And that means that they won't make fruit.
They won't. Yeah. Likely. Well, the article talks about some of the detrimental effects.
Yeah. Okay, we are at the end of our show.
It says fini, doesn't it?
It says fini.
Fini.
That's the one word I know in French. When I was a little kid, I had a first expression that I came up with. It wasn't mommy or daddy or dada or mama. I said tapa.
Papa.
Tapa.
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 What does that mean?
For months, my parents tried to figure it out. They finally realized that what I was saying was stop it.
No kidding.
Anyway, we hope you all have a comfortably cozy week, and we will wave goodbye when Ron has got both of us up there we are.
Adios, amigos.
Come back next time.